Howdy, guys, gals, and non binary pals. This is the Tales from the Waystone Summer Reading Program.
We are your hosts, Will and Phoenix. Let's get into it.
Welcome to the sixth installment of our series on Becky Chambers' The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, Legality Is Not Morality, where we'll be reading pages 312 through 359.
Now, you might notice there's an inconsistency here.
Yeah, when I was doing the reading this week, I realized that we were originally slated to end 12 pages into the finale, and it just did not make sense.
Unlike how I did the breaking apart of the book between episode number 5 and 6, which by all rights should have been a little bit before. Sorry.
Yeah, it just felt like maybe it would be better to just do it all as one final push. And it just felt like the pacing was right. Those 12 extra pages of reading weren't going to make or break us. In the meantime, it would make for a more cohesive episode this time.
And a more cohesive episode for the finale. And then after that, starter villain.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yes, we might be recording literally all of these in the next week.
It's possible.
No, it's probable.
Anyway,
Let us dispense with the thing you're going to skip. Anyway, an explanation of the pod. Each week we'll be examining a section of A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, figuring out what we can take from the text to apply to our real lives. We'll also take some time to focus on a phronemos of the week and then share a recommended thing of the week. Finally, we'll wrap things up with some words from the book and some words from our own lives. Before we begin, let's get some disclaimers out of the way. First of all, we are in no way affiliated with Becky Chambers or her publisher, Harper Voyager. Second of all, our discussions naturally assume that you have read what we are going to talk about. If you haven't, spoilers! Don't complain. We warned you. Also, a word to our community, please be kind to yourselves, one another, and the creators of the worlds that we love exploring. I'm going to say that there are two main vignettes that we're going to be talking about in this episode.
Yep.
The first one is to do with picking up from when Corbin is so rudely taken off the ship. And the second one has to do with Ohan.
All right. So we pick up in the middle of October 25th with the crew being stopped by the Quellen and basically interrogated to see if there are any crimes being committed. Then finding out that Corbin, everybody's least favorite member of the crew, is actually an illegal clone and is therefore under arrest.
In the last episode, we did not find that out. We just found out that he got arrested for existing.
Right.
To be clear, in the GC, cloning sentient creatures is illegal, though not every culture within the GC actually has laws against it. And that's because some of those species consider themselves much smarter than humans because they never even thought about it.
Right. We're talking about you, the Andrisk.
Yes.
And the strictures are primarily related to the concern for diluting gene pools and also the potential for exploitation of cloned people. The Quellen, though, are particularly militant about their interpretation of all of this and in how to enforce it. Within their space, they have sovereignty and are able to detain people with impunity.
Hi, Sokka.
So we pick back up as Ashby returns from 6 hours of interrogation.
I think the point of this one is that he's supposed to be justifying that he did not know that Corbin was a clone, which is, I mean, Corbin didn't know that Corbin was a clone. So, right.
And even though it does show up in genetic testing from Dr. Sheff, it's only the sort of thing that shows up if you're actually looking for it. Dr. Sheff didn't know to look to check on this because it never occurred to him, and it never occurred to Ashby to ask for this, just as it never occurred to Corbin to ask if he's a clone.
Right. So the Quellen don't even consider Corbin to be a person, as evidenced by the way that they treat him. They strip him. They just take him away without any information. They don't appoint anybody to be his caretaker. More guards here go into this like divot in the floor of whatever space structure this is. He has no idea where he is. He has no idea about time. There is no mark of anything. There's no interaction past having gotten his nose broken by one of these.
Ash holes. Yeah, the Quellen will respect the rights of people that they consider to be members of the GC, but they do not believe in intrinsic rights.
They also don't believe that clones are members of the GC.
So, long and short, this is one of those weird intersections where civil law and moral law don't always line up. And it's something that Ashby actually calls out when he gets back. He says, I want to make abundantly clear, first of all, regardless of where Corbin came from, whether he's a clone or a natural born person, he deserves the same rights and considerations that any one of us have. I refuse to see him as anything less than a person with intrinsic sentient value. And it also doesn't matter that he's kind of a pain in
The Ash.
and Ashby is not willing to leave Corbin behind. He cares about him as a person.
To that note, in comes Rosemary with a solution. It's not a solution that is necessarily well liked by anyone, but it's a solution that will work. Corbin needs to essentially be sponsored to be brought back into citizenship with the GC. But the only way to do that is to have somebody from a culture that does not have laws against cloning sponsor him. Hi, Sissix.
Yeah, the last person who would want this.
And the last person he would want for this.
And that's because this sponsorship isn't just, oh, hey, Sissix goes to speak with him in front of some judge or whatever. It means that they have to remain in the same system while the hearings and court filings go through. And it's a process that can take more than a standard, which is basically a year. That means that if Sissix wants to go back to her home around Teth, Corbin has to go with her. If Corbin wants to go back to Enceladus for whatever reason,
which he doesn't,
Sissix would have to go with him. They basically have to take their time off together. Does not sound like fun for either of them.
If you don't stop arguing, I'm going to have to turn this spaceship around.
Right. So Sissix goes to retrieve Corbin from the Quellen Orbiter prison facility and is absolutely appalled by what she sees. This is basically people being held in pits. They're being held naked. They're being starved.
So, she has no taboos around being unclothed. In fact, actually, it is better to be naked than it is to be stuffed into a vest and pants, but that's what she's got. Corbin, on the other hand, very, 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 very self-conscious, very ashamed, very much trying to cover himself.
And the temperature is also cold, too. So it's not even just the clothing or not, it's the fact that he is cold, he's alone, he's starved, he's been beaten, he's been degraded and treated as someone, not even an animal.
Sissix does have the internal monologue of, after everything that's happened, why do you care about covering yourself? Why is that like covering private bits? Why do humans do this? And it is interesting when you examine that, right? Because again, I think I said it on the last episode. There are certain things that, based on your assumed gender, you're supposed to do, like shave your legs, wear a bra. If you're female, if you're male, you're supposed to have hairy armpits and, I don't know, stubble. Or it's okay. Or not wear nail polish. There you go. That's one. And yeah, there are some countercultural people that just are like, screw this. But that is still marked upon as weird or different, right? And even as I don't particularly care to wear a bra or to have my legs shaved, it does occur to me that other people might notice. And I think actually that self-consciousness is more on me than it is on anyone else. I don't think anyone actually notices this stuff for real. I don't notice it in other people, but I'm so afraid that everyone's going to notice it on me that, depending on what I'm wearing, I usually am fine going out to places where it's completely anonymous and no one's gonna remember me the next time that they see me anyway, but, like, going to hang out at the guitar store, that's a little bit weirder for me. So I'll wear a shirt over my shirt or something like that. I'm like, "Okay, I definitely need 2 layers of clothing over these things." But same way for Corbin, like, even around a person from a species where it really doesn't matter, he's still ashamed, he's still self-conscious, he's still trying to cover up his private bits.
I think also agency plays a role in this. Like, even if you are someone who is comfortable being in the nude in public, if someone were to take your clothes off of you without your consent, to do so forcibly, you might feel a little different about it. It's everything that Corbin is used to having a choice around.
It's also vulnerability,
Right.
and of all the people that he doesn't wanna be vulnerable around.
Yeah, Sissix is not someone he feels safe around. He doesn't feel safe around most people, but Sissix especially rubs him the wrong way, and vice versa. And I think seeing him like this humanizes him a little bit, for lack of a better word.
Personizes him.
Yeah, that'll work. And while both he and Sissix acknowledge that the arrangement is not optimal, he's still grateful that she came to help him. And she recognizes that, even though she doesn't like him, she doesn't get along with him, and would prefer not to have to deal with him if at all possible, even he doesn't deserve this kind of treatment.
To continue on, speaking of humanizing people, Corbin has an estranged relationship with his father, the person from whom he was cloned, even before he knew he was cloned. And in one little vignette, we get a point of view from Corbin where he doesn't necessarily have a good relationship. It's very strained. It's very, like, antagonistic anyway with this person that we've never met in the book. And it goes from that to, like, humanizing his father in the course of just that vignette.
And it also, I think, goes to show us the forces that turned Corbin into Corbin, that made him into such a miserable person. So, Corbin's father has been arrested because cloning is illegal. It's a violation of GC statutes, and therefore he has been arrested. And he's in an actual GC prison, which is a lot more,
Humane.
for lack of a better word, yes. And Marcus, Corbin's father, knows that he has a lot of explaining to do. And he knows that Corbin may never forgive him, but he does know that it is the right thing to apologize. So he does just that. He says, I'm sorry for how I treated you growing up. And I'm sorry for, the way you were raised. And I feel like I owe you an explanation. And Corbin is hostile to all of this. He wants to know where he came from, though, and why Marcus did this. Why did Marcus clone him? And he asks, "You always said mom died in a shuttle accident. Is she even real?" And Marcus replies, "No, you had a mother."
Well, sort of. He doesn't reply that. He replies, I had a wife. So, in theory, Marcus's children's mother would have been his wife, but she passed in a shuttle accident before Corbin was even created. Turns out she was pregnant. This, to Marcus, was the greatest tragedy because it erased his perceived ability to carry on his lineage, have a family, have people around who loved him, have proof that there were people that loved him. And he made decisions that made sense to him at the time, maybe, but that ultimately were unethical. And that's where Corbin came from. But then he also spent most of Corbin's upbringing being hypercritical and trying to create this perfect person in his eyes, like the perfect version of himself.
A version of him that was good at all the things he valued, that didn't have any of his own weaknesses. So instead of congratulating Corbin on all of the A's that he got in school, and he got many, he focused on the one or two C's and then just really rode him hard for that.
There is a thing about perfectionism. Perfectionism taken to an extreme, much like other things, not healthy. Perfectionism as a drive for yourself borderline kind of deal. It depends on how hard you are on yourself. Perfectionism, as in expecting others to fulfill your idea of the perfect, is controlling. Don't do that.
Yeah. All of this left a mark on Corbin, and it made him into
Kind of
this,
a bastard.
yeah, this miserable bastard, much like his father, who was the same way. Marcus at this point recognizes the harm that he did. Corbin says, "You never said you were proud of me. You never gave any indication that you thought I was worthwhile." And Marcus finally says, "I am proud of you. I do think you're worthwhile, and I'm sorry that I never told you, that I never showed it to you when you needed to hear it."
I don't know that he's ever going to get forgiveness from Corbin, though. And I don't know that he deserves it.
No, I think the thing to remember is forgiveness is not about whether a person deserves it or not. It is strictly about whether the person who has been wronged feels like forgiveness is the way for them to move forward. And if someone apologizes for something that they did wrong, you don't owe them forgiveness, but it does mean that forgiveness could potentially help you, but it's not a guarantee and it's not something that you are obligated to give. But it does at least open the door for that to be potentially something more.
At the end of it, Corbin latches on to one thing that is important to him. He wants to verify that October 25th is still his birthday, or I guess pulled out of a vat day is what he says, but he still wants to verify that it's still that because it's still a thing that makes him feel like a person and not just a created clone. And the thing is, that does open a can of worms about whether or not a clone is their own person. And in this case, it seems like he is. Now, before the end of the chapter, we do have a small visit with Jenks and Lovey, where Jenks is in Lovey's core, as close as he possibly can be to her, and is questioning the decision that they've made to put Lovey into a body.
Yeah, he's recognizing that there may be lasting consequences if they get caught. And not just for himself, but also for Lovey, especially. Like, if Lovey were in the body kit when the Quellen came aboard and they caught her, she would not be just put back into the ship or whatever. She would be violently dismantled with zero regard for her agency, for her well being.
For her life. Like, Jenks would probably be imprisoned, and he would be able to live with that fact, but he wouldn't be willing to live with the fact that she'd be killed.
This just is not a risk that he would ever want to ask her to take.
And so she does admit, of course, the reason I want to be in a body is because you want to hold me. But if you're not comfortable with it, I'm okay with not doing it. This is based on your comfort level, Jinx. And that's an interesting can of worms, right?
I think the thing that comes out of it is Jenks also recognizes that, yes, he absolutely would love to be able to hold Lovey the way he would a biological lover. However, he also knows that Lovey's agency in all of this is incredibly important. And while he would like this, he only really wants Lovey to go into the body if that's something that she wants for herself. And her wanting to do it to be nice to him, it makes him feel good, but he also knows that that's not justification enough to take the risk. Lovey brings up, well, the kid is on its way. So, I mean, that's a lot of money that you spent on that. And he says, it's okay. I'll be fine. I care more about being with you as you are and as you want to be. And I think we can see here the two of them really taking stock of what matters in their relationship. And what really matters for them is not Lovey's bodily status, but who she is and their ability to just be together as people.
As sentient beings.
Exactly. And he would not trade that for anything.
But I think that the can of worms that I'm talking about specifically is her choice to go along with his desires. She does have that choice. She can make that choice. It is okay that she wants to make that choice based on his wants, even though we might from the outside look at it and go, ew. But she is making a choice that her happiness being based on his happiness is something she is okay with. But those justifications can turn very ooky very quickly.
And part of that comes down to just Lovey's nature as a constructed sentient being who's been programmed to value others over herself.
To be a people pleaser. That is her job, is to be a people pleaser. And there are people who are people pleasers that get taken advantage of, that get treated like, hey, I want you to have agency. And then they're subtly or not so subtly put into a position where even though I have agency, it's clearly obvious that the person who said I have agency wants me to choose a specific route.
And Jenks, I think we see here, shows a lot of awareness of these facts. And that's why he says, look, I know that you want to give me this, but I don't want you to risk everything for this just because you think it'll make me happy. What will make me happy is you being alive and well. And that's the thing that will make me happier than anything else.
That is enough.
Like, we see that Jenks is actually someone who is worthy of her affection in this regard because he takes her well-being seriously as she takes his. Even though she is nominally a part of the ship and an inanimate object, he treats her with the same dignity and courtesy that he would treat any other member of the crew. So we move on to our next vignette, Heresy. It begins with just a little inconvenient tech issue.
It's kind of a MacGuffin. I don't think it's necessary to go into.
Fortunately, Syssix has found a new colony that might be able to help them, but it's not on any maps.
It's on a little asteroid in the middle of nowhere, nearby.
So Ashby gets on a call with the colony to see who they are, to see if they'll be able to help, and is surprised to discover that on the other end is a Cyanid. Not just any Cyanid, but one that uses singular pronouns.
It turns out that there is a cure for the Whisper, the virus that makes cyanide pairs, the thing that is like a separate consciousness above their own, that it's that virus that they're infected with when they're very young. And come to find out, the cyanide that he has a conversation with about trying to find a replacement bit is actually old, as in very old. Ohan, who is dying from what would be old age, is like 30. This cyanide is like 130.
Maz is this person's name, and she offers to help, both to find the bit and also maybe help with Ohan's waning. She says, well, come on down. I'll talk to you about it, but make sure you don't tell Ohan. They won't take it well.
And I hate this. I absolutely hate this. The worldview of this whole everything, especially Ashby, is to make sure that everyone knows and feels and is secure in the fact that they have agency. I hate the we can't tell someone something because we have to protect them from that something mentality. Hate it. Hate it. People do this all the time. They're like, you can't tell this other person this one thing, but I need to talk to you about this. And it's for their own good, and you got to do it for them, or got to do it to them. Or there's this secret that we don't want this other person to know because it will hurt them.
Forking.
I hate that.
I also think there is an element of, I think Maz worries that if they tell Ohan will work to stop Ashby and Kizzy from coming to visit them, to visit the asteroid.
I understand that. And actually, they would. Culturally speaking, and deeply held to Ohan's belief, is that the Whisper deserves to be in existence and does not deserve to be just obliterated after being used. It is a cultural thing where the life of the Cyanot pair is respected as a pair. And the people of the asteroid, the people who cure their Whisper, are going against this cultural, deeply held thing. And Ohan does not want Ashby and Kizzy to be brainwashed, in their opinion, into believing that a cure is and should be available to Ohan. And they kind of go nuts about this whole thing. Like, they get really agitated. They storm into Rosemary's office, demand to know where Kizzy and Ashby have gone, and are despondent over the idea that they would be even asked to cure their whisper. Quote, cure their whisper.
I think this also speaks to the messiness of living in a pluralistic society. It's all well and good when it's little small things like I like raspberries and you like cherries, right?
Like,
Like,
we can just kind of tease each other about it.
but sometimes you run into worldviews that are mutually exclusive. Either this is true or that is true, but neither one of these can both be true at the same time.
For instance, some people come from a culture or a religion where blood transfusions, no, you don't do it. You do not put another person's blood into your body. And the people that they love might be looking at them in an emergency situation where they would need to have a blood transfusion in order to continue living. Where do you get to choose, and whose beliefs do you go with? If someone has power of attorney over someone who is unconscious, but that unconscious person has said, I don't want extraordinary life saving measures being taken on my body. Don't intubate me. Don't do this. Don't keep my body alive when it is giving up. But the people who love that person are like, but I can't let go. Whose wishes do you go with?
This is the tricky part. You have to wrestle with some of that if you are committed to living in a multicultural, pluralistic society.
I have a bright white line that tells me whose opinion of this matters.
Right.
And I think you have that same bright white line. Bodily autonomy trumps desires of other people to hold on.
Yep. And, Ashby has a similar stance. He is willing to listen to Maz because obviously, yes, he wants to have the information. And yes, he does need that bit for the ship.
And he also wants hope that his friend won't die, that his crewmate won't die, even though that's very selfish and very human centric and not respecting Ohan's choices.
He knows that he can present it as an option, but he will never force Ohan to do this.
But even presenting it as an option when he's already been told no, I think is crossing a line.
It's one that the rest of the crew is very uncomfortable with.
What do you mean you have a cure for what's going on with Ohan and you won't make him do it? Sissix specifically calls them him.
And, Ashby just responds, hey, I'm not trying to say that I am okay with this. Like, pluralism isn't just kind of being this aloof, I don't care what you do you, boo. It doesn't bother me. It means being willing to express your truth and also accepting the other person's, even when it directly contradicts yours. So when Ashby makes the offer to say, hey, we have a cure for the whisper if you so choose, that is him expressing his worldview, his viewpoint, which he has the right to do. Ohan also has the right to say, no, not at all. To do so would be the death of me.
But they've already said no.
It's something that can be made difficult when that rejection is rooted in a religious tradition that does not seem based in reality, or if you see it as based in a system of control. In this case, the Scienot Pair Society has this religious aversion to curing the whisper because it is a power structure that benefits them and their way of being. And to have a cure that also maintains the gifts that the whisperer imparts would be something that would undo their social order, the way that they've come to construct themselves.
But does that make it any less valid?
That's the hard part. It doesn't. Even as every part of your body is saying, well, this is something that seems wrong and I don't want to lose you, so I'm going to recommend against it. And it's something where you can feel like I can't just agree to disagree on this. Ashby, I think, feels that conflict. It isn't just you do you for him when he finally just says, okay, I'll accept your choice here, Ohan. your choice is valid. We'll make sure that you're comfortable for the remainder of your waning. It isn't something that he just says, yeah, whatever, okay. It's more than just sort of that lofty live and let live. It is something where he's had to really grapple with just how much it goes against all of the things that he holds dear and his own value for life. And Sissix in particular is very hostile to all of this. And Sissix can be sometimes fairly absolute in her own judgments of things. And Ashby, I think to his credit, also recognizes that, look, if we're going to play this game, judging other people by our own cultural mores, maybe I should talk to you about your relationship with Rosemary. Maybe I should tell you that you have to observe certain cultural traditions that you don't like.
You should bring your children to the ship and you should raise them. Or, I mean, the thing with Rosemary, like the throwing that into Sissix's face, I think was partly like a fact-finding mission to just verify that his assumption was right, but also like I don't know, like it was something that was specifically designed and I think manipulated into just getting under her skin.
And I think it was something that he needed to do in that moment.
I think it was passive aggressive and jerkish. Also, I apologize if y'all hear like random noises. Our neighbors, I guess, are making noise.
Though I love how it does end up kind of short circuiting the argument a little bit.
Yes, it was constructed to do that.
And Sissix is like, well, how did you know that? I didn't say anything. And
Rosemary makes moon eyes at you. Ugh. You'd have to be just not paying any attention and roll like absolute
sure.
on your perception roll.
And, he also says, hey, while we're talking here, I have to confess feeling a little bit uncomfortable that you didn't tell me about this. I'm your feather brother. And this is where we learn that it's not just the Wayfarer that is Sissix's feather family. It is specifically Ashby. And that means that they can share anything and everything.
And that's where you come into who do I respect? Whose choices and wishes and boundaries do I respect? And I think that Sissix did choose the right one because it's the one with the tighter boundaries. Rosemary didn't want to share, and so you don't share, even if somebody else wanted you to share and feels entitled to you sharing.
And when Sissix explains this, Ashby's cool with it. He also expresses a little bit of regret that even as Sissix's feather family, feather brother, he could never really bring himself to love Sissix the way that Rosemary can.
Or the way that Sissix needs, specifically.
And he accepts that this is the case, and he doesn't feel possessive about this, but I think it's also that element of seeing what someone needs. I think mostly he just feels sorry that he had never seen that that's what Sissix needed from him.
No, I think he does see that that's what Sissix needs from him. I think that in reality, it's that he can't give it to her.
I think you're right. And again, that's the messy part of living in a pluralistic community. It's accepting that sometimes there aren't clear, bright lines. There can be conflicting boundaries that overlap in messy ways. And if you're taking it seriously, it is going to hurt. But you don't let your discomfort with a given situation overrule that value, which I think is a good segue into our Phronimos.
Go for it.
So I picked Ashby this week.
I kind of figured that that would be the case.
He gets put through the ringer here.
He does.
His values are challenged. Like I said, pluralism is easy when everybody's happy.
Mm-hmm.
Pluralism is easy when you aren't confronted with those messy, conflicting boundaries. And it's easy when the stakes are low. In the cases of both Corbin, who is a challenge to just live in community with, it means accepting that you have to value someone even if they don't, strictly speaking, return affection, even if they don't show affection the way you receive it.
That's actually a very good point because there are people who show affection or think that they're showing affection in a way that when it is received does not feel that way. It either feels controlling, aloof, I show affection by giving people agency. Some people might not like that because it means that I'm also not necessarily giving them an opinion on how they ought to be. I have an openness about letting people make their own choices that might come off as not caring what their choices are.
Then when we have the case of Ohan and the heretics, Ashby is more sympathetic to the heretics' worldview. And at the same time, he has to honor the wishes of Ohan, who does not share that worldview. And in this case, it is a space where it runs counter to Ashby's intuitions. It runs counter to the values that he was raised with.
Well, not only that, but he has to justify that to another person. The choice to go counter to his own values to respect somebody else's.
And again, this is not Ohan saying that, Ashby doesn't have value or agency or anything like that. This is Ohan talking about their own agency. And, this is something that I think a lot of physicians also struggle with when there is a readily available cure for a condition or treatment or a vaccine.
Measles.
And you have people who, for whatever reason, parents who refuse to allow this treatment to occur for their children or themselves. And so then the physician has to watch their patient suffer because of this.
And also watch their patient potentially spread it to other people because of this. Like, where is the ethical line? Where do we draw that line?
Right. Like, it's one thing to say, my personal religion prevents me from getting a cast for a broken bone. It's a random weirdo thing. I don't think anybody actually has that. But let's say I've got that. It's something that obviously a lot of people would look askance at, but no one would say, oh, you absolutely have zero choice but to go get a cast on that bone, and I am going to tie you down while you get that.
However, if you have an infectious disease, where is the ethical line of you owe it to other people not to infect them?
Right. And that's where it can get tricky. And that's where you might be able to make a case for overruling someone's agency. It is that whole idea that I have the right to swing my fist, but it ends at someone else's nose. Yes, you have the right to refuse a treatment up until that refusal impacts someone else's right to live a healthy life.
Except, welcome to the last 5 years.
Yeah, like I say, it's messy.
It is very messy because some people refuse to give a flying fork about the people around them or believe that they're being manipulated or lied to.
And it can be difficult.
There is a strongly held belief that is unshakable, even with scientific proof. And you cannot hold people down to make them have a measles vaccine or a COVID shot or to vote in a way that would elect an administration that believes in COVID shots. Sorry to be on a soapbox, but I would like to have my COVID shot, please. I don't know. The whole idea that there is a new variant that has a symptom called razor blade throat kind of deters me from ever getting this thing, which I have not gotten.
Point being, I think we have to admire Ashby in this case for sticking with his value for pluralism, even when it makes him uncomfortable, and, refusing to deny the discomfort or also denying his own internal contradictions. Nobody has a fully formed, entirely internally consistent worldview. Nobody does.
Definitely not me. I am going to say that. I am full of contradictions and hypocrisy.
We all are. And Ashby is forced to confront those. And it is the fact that he's willing to say, yeah, I'm not strictly comfortable with this, but he also isn't going to then use that cognitive dissonance as a reason to shut out anything that makes him uncomfortable. And I think that's the thing that we should be taking from this. So that's my choice.
Face the messiness.
Yep. Embrace the mess. Bless this mess.
No.
Anyway, you have thing of the week. What'd you pick this week?
All right. So I don't know. There wasn't a whole lot for me to kind of latch on to. I really haven't gotten a whole lot of new input. there are a couple of options that were kind of kicking around, things that I've enjoyed for sure. And one of those is just having a gigantic Lego set that I am staring at currently to just zone out and to enjoy the process of building something that is essentially a model of Rivendell from The Lord of the Rings. It's a set that I've had for about a year. I got it for my birthday last year and I didn't start making it until after Christmas. And it's taking up a fair chunk of stuff. And the thing about it is that it gives me a chance to kind of have a clear head and a clear mind and not have to think too much. I like following the instructions and seeing what is built out of it. It's that process of building. Another thing that I could have chosen, and it's because I'm going to recommend books. We're going to just live with this. And right now, I'm going to recommend literally everything by John Scalzi. It just, so far, have not come across anything that is less than just chef's kiss. All of the stuff. I've loved every single one of the books that I have read and or listened to. Shout out to Will Wheaton for reading most of them for audiobook. I think I've listened to every single thing that he's read for John Scalzi now. But especially the most recent thing that I listened to, which was the Interdependency trilogy. Absolutely lovely. And I've even gotten it so that Will got a physical copy so he can read it, and he's over halfway through the first book in like a day. That should be like a good mark. But I think what I'm really like, the thing I'm really going to just suggest everyone go and find a way to do is listen to the soundtrack to the video game Neva, because it's pretty, because Will came in while I was listening to it and building Lego, and he's just like, this is very pretty. It's the same people that made the game Gree, also has a very lovely soundtrack. This is 4 records worth of just lovely music. It's relaxing, it's gentle, and I'm sure that you can find it on whatever music streaming whatever that you have.
So I think you had 3 good recommendations in there. I think they're all good, so.
Well, thank you very much. So far, you're enjoying the Interdependency series?
Yes, I am. It's classic old school space opera in kind of the style of Isaac Asimov, with a sprinkling of highly irreverent characters, which are a lot of fun.
Also, like the best ship names.
Great ship names. Like the twin ships of "Yes, sir, that's my baby," and "No, sir, I don't mean maybe."
Right. And it's just, I love everything about that. Just makes me very happy. And also, like, I've listened to the entire thing and I got so invested. It was very good.
So yeah, I think those are some good recs. With that, it's time for us to do 7 words. I got a few options here. So I have, I'm not mad at you about this.
Honestly, that could be my 7 words, considering you just kicked the recording device.
That's fair. Well, and I mean, I think this is also an important thing for people in any kind of relationship with others to be able to say when they're frustrated.
Also, like earlier this week, a ceramic bowl just kind of jumped out of your hands in the sink and it broke itself.
Yep. And you being able to say, hey, I'm not mad about the broken thing. I'm just glad that you're okay. Made a big difference. Helped me a lot, and I appreciate it. There's also, it was the right thing to do. This is something Sissik says to Corbin, acknowledging that, yeah, this is inconvenient for both of us. It's also the right thing to do, even though it's tough, even though it's going to mean some trade-offs that neither of them really want to make. And then there's also, even unpleasant bastards like us deserve company. Again, I think something to remember is that even those people that we find abrasive and that we find distasteful and inconsiderate are not without merit and value because they're people.
It is really hard, especially when, like, I'm going to be honest here. It is really hard to see the humanity in some people when they are racist, homophobic, transphobic. It is really hard to see a bigot as a person.
And the uncomfortable truth is that their only chance to be anything other than that is if they have company. if they have people who can show them something better. That's the only way that they have a chance to be a better person. Nobody gets to be a better person just by going off to live 100% by themselves and cutting themselves off from the rest of the world. And then the one I picked because I thought it was a lot of fun was, but techs like to bang things, yes?
No innuendo.
It was fun.
I like it. It's a good choice.
All right. You have 7 words from life. What did you pick?
So, a lot of things that get kind of said around our home is about giving grace to one another and about not conforming to what ought to be, but to accepting what is. And on occasion, I have been known to experiment with making food. And on occasion, those experiments turn out poorly.
It's happened.
It has. Sometimes my instincts are great, and sometimes there is so much spice in something that it is inedible. And this has happened recently-ish, but it was probably, I want to say, in March, and it's June now.
Yeah.
And there has been a collection of curry in our freezer for that duration that is never going to be eaten. And it's just taking up containers. And so my 7 words are, and I had to massage this so much, but tossing unwanted leftovers is okay and encouraged.
Yep. I remember our first experience with that many years ago.
We've talked about this on the pod.
Just that moment of the two of us kind of picking at our respective dinners and just kind of not wanting to acknowledge that this is not edible.
I had made a curry with pineapple, and then we froze it. PSA, do not freeze pineapple in things. It will be very gross.
It was like eating stomach acid.
Yeah, it was very gross.
And like I remember just the two of us finally looking at each other and seeing the looks on one another's faces and the recognition that, okay, good, it's not just me.
Right. So I know we've talked about this before, but I'm going to go briefly. We didn't have a whole lot of money. I'd made a crock pot meal. I meant for it to have leftovers. It was great the first night. Froze it, turned absolutely disgusting. And we both look at each other when we're trying to eat this and go, I know we're supposed to want to eat the leftovers. I don't want to eat the leftovers. This is disgusting. Absolutely not.
Do you want to order pizza instead?
Right. And in the case of the current leftovers, again, they're just going to take up space in our freezer and use up some containers that we might want for other things. It is okay. Even if you're tight on money and you have to find a justification, sustenance for the sake of sustenance is not pleasurable. And if it is gross, it might actually legitimately be dangerous. If you have any way to not be forced to eat leftovers that have ceased to be even a moderately pleasurable meal, don't eat those.
Good call. All right. So with that, I'd like to thank you for potting with me.
Thank you for potting with me.
And thanks for listening to Tales from the Waystone. Please join us next time as we finish up The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, concluding with pages 360 through the end of the book.
We would like to thank our friend Shawnee Jang for our theme music.
And many thanks to Becky Chambers for creating this universe that we're enjoying exploring.
Audio production, editing, and I don't know, Patreon stuff, and sometimes memes on Discord, courtesy of me, Phoenix McCullough.
Writing and project management, courtesy of me, Will McCullough.
Join us on our Discord, link in the description. Or, if you want some extra bonus pod type stuff, Patreon exists. Patreon.com/Waystonepod.
And as always, here's to one more day above the roses.
To one more day above the roses.
Ding!
Oh, the perils of drinking soda water. Just end of sentence.
Yeah. Full stop.